I knew it was time to end this entire situation and get out of the control room before anyone arrived to shut me down. If I rushed, I could switch off the live assist mode and set the system back to fully automated broadcasting mode. Our local television viewers had seen enough for one evening. As soon as I had the system functioning normally, I could leave here and go get a drink. I needed a drink. I also knew that there would be repercussions. Repercussions when I got home, and repercussions when the general manager and the FCC put it all together and came searching for me. I was already in trouble, so it didn't concern me anymore. As I mentioned, I needed a drink. I drove to Frankie's on Roswell Road, a local sports bar hotspot, and ordered a beverage. I sat there and watched the end of the Monday night football game while I had several more drinks. There was quite a commotion going on at the bar, and I knew what it was all about. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard enough to know I had clearly accomplished my goal. I had them talking. Fortunately, they didn't involve me in their discussions, and I drank in silence and all alone while I watched the Saints defeat the poor Falcons. By the time 10:30 p.m. rolled around, I was not feeling much discomfort. The game was over, and my team had lost. New Orleans 23, Atlanta 3. I think the Saints must have been excited about playing their first game in their stadium since the hurricane because they literally demolished the Falcons. Our station had broadcasted the game in addition to ESPN airing it because we were one of the participants. I asked the bartender if it was acceptable to leave my car in the parking lot and pick it up in the morning. He said it was the prudent thing to do given the state I was in. He called a cab for me since I lived only a short distance away in a pleasant residential area of Sandy Springs. Well, that is pretty much the conclusion of the story, and I suppose I should start at the beginning so you know exactly what led me to this point. My name is Richard Head, but my friends call me Dick. I am a broadcast engineer for WBDK, a local affiliate of CBS in Atlanta, Georgia. I hold a graduate degree from MIT in electrical engineering and computer science and received a second degree in broadcast technologies. Needless to say, I am highly qualified in my field and have held several very demanding positions. My career began in the industry 22 years ago, and I have worked at several television stations on the East Coast, having been here in Atlanta for the last 5 of those years. If you are curious about my appearance, I am 46 years old with dark hair that is starting to turn gray at the temples. I have never felt the need to remove that gray, but I have a small mustache, and yes, I do use a bit of dye to cover the gray in it. I am 6'3" tall and weigh about 190 lbs. I'm not entirely sure because it has been a while since I last weighed myself. I am moderately attractive, but not a Mel Gibson or Richard Gere. You'll notice I didn't mention any of the younger actors, firstly because I don't know many of their names, and secondly, because I am simply not in that age bracket, which would be misleading. Anyway, I am good-looking, but not a Dr. Dreamy type either. My wife Sharon and I have been married for 22 years. We have 2 daughters, Melanie and Stephanie. Both girls have moved out, with Melanie being married and Stephanie a senior in college. Sharon is about 5'5", tall and weighs no more than 135 lbs, with long blonde hair that reaches her shoulders. She is very attractive and has a figure that makes my mouth water and turns most people's heads. On top of all that, Sharon is one of the sweetest women I have ever met. I cannot think of one person who doesn't like her. She works as a secretary for Bob Shelter and has been in that role for the last 18 months. Well, back to the story. This all started last Friday. I had a little extra time for lunch and thought it might be nice to drop in on Sharon and take her out to lunch. I parked at the side entrance to the office since it was raining, and I could get closer to the door. She wasn't in her office when I arrived, but I walked in anyway. While I was standing there, I could hear her talking to Rob Shelter in his office. I can't wait for Monday night, darling. It is so great that Dick works the Monday night football games for the station. It gives us plenty of chances to get together. It has been so long since I felt you with me that I can hardly stand it. Have you booked the room at the La Quinta Inn yet? She asked. Yes, it is all arranged. I asked for the Whirlpool suite again. I can't wait. It has been a long time. Come here, darling, and let me get a feel of it right now. I heard a slight rustling of clothes, and then I heard her moan. At that moment, you could have knocked me over with a feather. Well, I was in shock, on the verge of vomiting, and my anger was beginning to build, so I knew I better get out of there before I did something really foolish. I didn't think I could stand there listening for another second. I wanted to rush in and confront them, and maybe I should have just done that, but in the state I was in at that moment, I was certain that I would have harmed them both. I didn't like the prospects of what would happen to me afterward, so I turned and left. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. I wanted to lash out, but I just left. I was sure that neither of them saw me or knew that I had been there. They did have security cameras scanning both main entrances to the office, but I had slipped in the side door, so they never saw me come in. I exited the same way and drove away. I was so shaken that I knew I would be ineffective for the rest of the day, so I called the station and informed them that I wasn't feeling well and would be going home. I needed time to think about what I was going to do, and home was as good a place as any. Sharon wouldn't be there until after 4 p.m., so I had plenty of time to reflect on this situation. It was quite clear that she was having an affair with Rob Shelter. From now on, in my mind, he was Jerk Bob. It kind of rhymes with Rob Shelter, and I liked how it sounded. What I needed to find out was the complete nature of their relationship, how long the affair had been going on, and why it had started in the first place. I know some people might not want to know these details because they might seem irrelevant, but I am not one of those people. I desperately wanted to understand why this had happened in my marriage, the marriage I thought was so wonderful. Clearly Sharon didn't think it was as wonderful as I did. Clearly she wasn't the kind person I believed she was. Well, I would uncover everything I needed to know and address it. I wasn't weak, and I would get to the bottom of this, and both of them would be dealt with accordingly. After I got home, I made myself a pot of coffee and went out to sit on the patio and reflect. The weather was pleasant, and I knew the fresh air would help keep my mind clear as I thought things through. I would figure it all out in time, and I needed to calm myself. I won't say that I didn't shed a few tears that afternoon because I did. I know I don't own her or her body, but it devastated me to think that she would allow another man, or men, to have her intimacy when she had promised herself to me on our wedding day. Some might not take that promise too seriously, but I did, and I thought she did too. Something like this makes you question your entire value system and wonder if you have been a fool your whole life to believe in fidelity and love and everything that comes with it. No matter what anyone says, the most damaging aspect of a cheating partner isn't just the fact that they had intimacy with someone else. It's that you can no longer trust them or believe in anything they say or do. You have no more faith in them. Throughout your entire marriage you thought they had your back, but now you know they don't, and it leaves you feeling vulnerable and afraid. Oh yes, I might be 6'3", tall and 190 lbs, but I felt vulnerable and scared. And that further highlights what a cheating spouse can do to a person. It brings you down like nothing else could. As I sat there grappling with my emotions, trying to remain calm and objective so I could sort things out in my mind, I realized that there were things I had questioned in the past and overlooked because of the trust I had in Sharon. They were small matters that seemed insignificant then, but had now accumulated into a huge lump in the pit of my stomach as I pieced it all together. How could I be so naive? Trust, that's how. I had trusted her. Today that trust was shattered, and all those small hints had merged into a mass that was difficult to digest. Facts were what I needed. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know how long and how often. I wanted to know where and who else was involved. Yes, my trust was gone. I would get the answers I needed. I knew my marriage was a facade, and I would deal with that too, but I just needed answers. I didn't think I could face Sharon yet without giving away my suspicions, so at 3 p.m., I left the house to avoid being there when she arrived home. I drove into town and stopped at the station to pick up a few items I would need over the next few days. I popped into my boss's office and asked him if he had a few minutes. I told him that I was having some issues and wasn't feeling well, and that I would need a couple of days off early in the week to address it. He seemed fine with it, so I left and went to Frankie's to hang out until I had to go home. At 5 p.m., I called Sharon and told her that I was stopping for a while and wouldn't be home for dinner. She was a bit upset and said, "Well, that's your loss because I'm really in the mood tonight, and you were going to get lucky. But if you stop, there's no way that's going to happen." Yeah, right, as if I wanted her after Jerk Bob. She might be eager, but it was because of him and not me. She could just take care of herself for all I cared. I said, "Honey, I already made plans to stop, so you just keep it warm for me, and I'll take care of you when I get home." I knew that would get her worked up quickly. She replied, "Don't count on it, Buster. If you think you can treat me like that, there will be nothing for you for a while." I thought to myself that was exactly what I wanted. I wasn't going to have intimacy with her again until I found out exactly what had been happening, and maybe I would never have intimacy with her again. I got home around 10:30 p.m., and I was fairly tipsy, but not so tipsy that I didn't notice the bedroom door was shut and locked. I smirked at that and pounded on the door to wake her up in case she was asleep, which I doubted. I yelled, "Okay, if this is how you want to play it, it will be a cold day in hell before I take care of your eager body. Just suffer." With that, I headed for the spare bedroom, knowing she would be fuming mad now. That would give me several days without having to explain why I didn't want intimacy with her. The next morning, when I got up, she was sitting at the kitchen table having a cup of coffee when I walked in. I'm sure the temperature of her coffee dropped a few degrees at that moment because it got extremely chilly in that kitchen, and her stare was ice cold. If I hadn't known she was an unfaithful wife at that moment, her look would have sent shivers down my spine. I smiled at her and said, "Don't bother getting up to make me breakfast, honey. I'll grab something on my way to the golf course." I walked out the kitchen door into the garage, tossed my golf clubs in the trunk, and backed out of the garage before driving off. Moments later, my cell phone rang, and seeing it was her, I didn't answer. A few minutes after that, I heard it beep, indicating she had left me a message, so I listened to it. Wow, she was furious. "You jerk, how could you do that to me? Get your butt back here right now." Jerk Dick? No, it was Jerk Bob, not Jerk Dick. If anyone was a jerk, it was him, not me. I had no intention of going golfing, but that gave me a few hours to do what I needed to do. I drove straight to her office. It was still fairly early when I arrived, so I knew there was little chance anyone would be around. And I was correct. I let myself into the building. Yes, since my wife worked there, we did have a key to the office, and went directly to the offices. My goal was to place the remote micro cameras and mini microphones in her office and in Jerk Bob's office. It didn't take me long to accomplish that, and I hid the transmitter behind some old books in the supply closet across the hall. I had the receiver in my trunk and wired it into my car's electrical system. I would now be able to monitor their conversations and activities anytime they were in their offices. I was fairly certain that they wouldn't do much there in the office, but I was also confident that I would gather a lot of information by observing them for a few days and listening to their conversations. When I was sure that everything was set up correctly, I rummaged through her desk but found nothing significant. However, there was a large asterisk on her calendar for Monday. That matched what I had heard on Friday. I would be prepared. Then I went into Jerk Bob's office and looked around as well. I had little success finding anything incriminating, but at the last moment, I had an inspired thought. I sifted through the filing cabinets looking for receipts for office expenditures. Sure enough, I found a file with several receipts for the La Quinta Inn in Roswell. A couple of them were from the end of 2023, and a few were from the spring of 2024. I knew I was testing my luck by staying here so long, so I quickly made copies of the receipts to take with me and put everything back in order before leaving. I drove over to the golf course and parked in the usual area where I typically parked when I played golf. Then I walked into the clubhouse and headed for the bar. I knew a few people there and wanted to ensure that they would remember I had been present. I found a table in the back and sipped a Sprite for a couple of hours. During that time, I examined the receipts very closely and discovered that the two from late 2023 were both Mondays, and the two from the spring of 2024 matched exactly with dates when I went to New York for a conference at CBS headquarters. What infuriated me the most was that Jerk Bob had the audacity to charge those rooms to the office and labeled them as conference room rentals for meetings. Their days were numbered now. All I needed was a bit more evidence and the gavel was going to fall. I knew this affair had been going on for at least a year and probably longer. That also aligned with some of the suspicions I had considered earlier. My guess is that Jerk Bob had been having intimacy with her since before she started working for him. She had a good job at Telfor Corporation as a receptionist, but she eagerly jumped at the chance to work for his office, saying, "Honey, it will be so close to home. What could be better than that? And the pay will be very close to what I was making at Telfor. How can I pass this up?" Yeah, closer to home, working for the office, almost the same pay, but clearly, It was the extra fringe benefits she was most interested in. As you can tell, I was getting angrier by the minute. I couldn't believe how foolish I had been. It made me angry, but it also made me sick to think that this sweet woman whom I had adored throughout our marriage could do this to me and not even flinch. I was going to make them pay. I decided it was time to do some investigating, so I went out to my car and connected my iPod to the frequency of the receiver I had in the trunk. Sure enough, after scrolling through a few minutes of data, I saw Jerk Bob walk into his office. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. I thought, darn, I should have placed a bug on his phone, but I hadn't. Oh well, for now, I'd have to settle for hearing a one-sided conversation. Yes, Sharon, I'm at the office. I came here right after you called me. Why don't you tell me why you're so upset? Pause. Oh, has he ever done that before? Pause. I see. What do you think triggered his reaction? Pause. You don't think he's suspicious of anything, do you, Sharon? Pause. Laughing, okay, well, you can get back at him on Monday night. With that, he ended the call and sat there contemplating something. I was about to shut down the transmission when he muttered something barely audible, but I managed to catch it. I made sure to save that soundbite for later use. After shutting down, I drove home. I figured it would be a bit chilly there, so when I got home, I went ahead and mowed the lawn and took care of a few chores in the basement. She didn't say much when I walked in, but it was clear there was still some tension in the air. When I ignored her at the dinner table, she just sat and glared at me. Eventually, she couldn't handle the silence any longer and tried to start a conversation. Dick, what's going on with you? Why have you been acting like this? Sharon, you're the one who locked me out of our bedroom last night, so now you have to deal with the consequences. I've rarely gone out with friends, and you exploded and threatened me the one time I did, so this is on you, not me. Forget you, she said. Just forget you. I looked her straight in the eye and said, Is that really how you'd want to express yourself? Your words and actions aren't aligning with the values you claim to hold. Oh my God, you should have seen the expression on her face. The guilt was so evident that anyone who saw her would have known she was being unfaithful. How she thought I wouldn't notice, I don't know. To her credit, she recovered quickly and finally excused herself from the table. I thought to myself, when I reveal the truth, she won't recover so easily. A little later, she came into the family room where I was watching television. Don't tell anyone, but I was watching Fox for balanced news coverage. Her eyes seemed a bit red, so I figured she might have been crying. The rest of the evening passed without incident. When I was ready for bed, I simply walked down the hallway to the spare bedroom and went to sleep. A few minutes later, she walked into the room and stood there. What do you want? I asked her. Aren't you coming to bed with me? She asked. Nope. You made it clear that intimacy is not in my immediate future, so I might as well sleep here alone and get a good night's rest. With that, she ran crying from the room. Honestly, I didn't care. Monday morning, I got up and left the house without seeing or speaking to her. My cell phone rang. I answered it, and she tearfully said, Dick, I'm so sorry. I love you, and I hate that this is happening. We'll discuss all of this when I get home tonight, I replied and ended the call. I called my boss and informed him that I would still be off for the day, but that I would handle the Monday night football game as planned. He was pleased that I would be available for that. He also asked how things were going, and I said they were as good as could be expected. My next stop was the La Quinta Inn in Roswell. There was a young man behind the check-in desk when I entered the lobby. I approached him and noticed his name tag read Kevin. I asked him if he could do me a favor. He looked a bit skeptical but asked what I needed. I was honest with him. I said, Kevin, I am certain that my wife is involved with another man, and she will be here with him tonight. I need to get into that room to catch them, so I need your help. He said, I can't let you into that room while they're there. I could get into a lot of trouble. I understand, but I only want to place a microphone in there to record what they're saying. If you help me with that, I'll get you a couple of tickets to the next Falcons game. He had the nerve to ask for 4 tickets. I didn't mind since I had 4 tickets from the station that I could give him. I agreed, and he handed me the key to the only whirlpool suite in the motel. What he didn't know was that I planned not only to place a couple of mini microphones, but also to install a couple of micro cameras similar to those I had set up at the offices. I also added a bug in the phone to capture both sides of any conversation. When everything was set up, I tested it to ensure I was receiving good transmission and clear views of both the whirlpool and the bed. I knew the images would be compelling if everything was configured correctly, and I would have all the evidence I needed. I double-checked to make sure everything was relatively invisible and then left the room. On my way out, I stopped at the desk to return the key to Kevin and handed him the tickets I had promised for next week's game. Thanks, Kevin. I hope everything works out. Enjoy the game. With plenty of time to spare, I decided to handle a few tasks that I needed to complete. I went to our bank and obtained cashier's checks for half of the money in our checking account and half of the money in our savings account. I called and canceled our joint credit cards. I contacted my broker and arranged to meet him shortly after lunch. I told him I wanted to make some changes to our investment accounts, and he assured me he could have everything prepared by the time I arrived. I reached out to my attorney and informed him that I would need his services for a divorce and other related matters. I scheduled an appointment for later that afternoon when he said he would be available. Then I drove to Planters National Bank in Marietta, GA, and opened new accounts in my name only, depositing the cashier's checks. I had lunch in Marietta but didn't have much of an appetite. Afterward, I drove to my broker's office where we reviewed the documents he had prepared for me. Essentially, they divided our investment portfolio into 2 equal parts without the need to sell any assets or incur unwanted tax consequences. All I needed to do was sign my name and obtain Sharon's signature. I took the papers with me. By then, it was time to meet with my attorney and we went over the divorce papers he had prepared. I agreed to file a no-fault divorce and split everything equally if she would sign them immediately. If she wouldn't sign them immediately, I had him include a provision whereby I would file for divorce on the grounds of adultery. I was pretty sure she would sign them immediately. Everything I could think of had been taken care of, and all I had to do was get a bite to eat for dinner and then head to the station to oversee the Monday Night Football broadcast. When I left his office, I turned my cell phone back on and had a couple of messages from Sharon. She said, "Dick, I don't know what is going on with you, but you are scaring me. Why don't you come home before the game and talk to me about it? I love you so much, and it is tearing me apart that you are acting like this," she continued. "Please call me." I knew what she was going to be doing tonight, and she knew, and yet she could say the things she did to me. I thought, I must be the biggest fool in the universe to have loved and trusted this woman. I had made up my mind. The only thing that was going to save my marriage is if she did not show up at the motel tonight. If she didn't go to the motel, I would know that she cared enough about me to try to salvage our marriage. I would know that she sensed that our marriage was in trouble, and she couldn't let it go any farther. At 8 p.m., I put the system into the fully automated broadcast mode and Monday Night Football began. I then set up the system to monitor my feed from the motel room. At precisely 8:15, Jerk Bob walks into the room and makes the call. "Hey baby, I'm in the room. Get over here as quickly as you can." "Okay, honey, I will be there in a few minutes," she replied. He muttered a few more things after he hung up, and I was pretty sure I picked them up, but I'd need to review the audio later to be certain. As much as I was devastated by the state of my marriage, I didn't expect Sharon to end it. It hurt deeply, but it also steeled my determination to make them both pay. I pulled out my list of contacts and began dialing. It took me about half an hour to reach everyone, but I got it done. By the time I was finished, Sharon had arrived at the motel. I went back to monitoring the video and audio feeds. "Oh God, Bobby, thinking about you with me makes me so excited that I'm dripping wet. I'm thrilled we have these nights together," she said. "Come here," he replied. "I'm going to make you lose control tonight, just so you know." "I love it when you talk to me like that, Bobby. I want to be yours. Please make me yours tonight. Give it to me hard and long, baby." I felt a wave of nausea. My once sweet wife had descended into this level of depravity. In the moments to come, I would see just how far they had sunk. They both deserved what was coming to them. She was on the bed, her body positioned perfectly for the camera, moaning as she urged him on. "Oh God, yes, take me," she gasped. He arrogantly replied, "When I'm done, you'll forget about Dick for good." Her response was nothing but more gasps and groans, lost in the moment. He flipped her over and took control, clearly giving her what she craved. All I could do was watch in agony, knowing she had chosen him, not because of love, but because of the physical pleasure he provided. After 45 minutes, I had had enough. It was halftime in the game and time for the halftime show. I switched the system to live assist mode and patched in the recording of Jerk Bob and Sharon from the beginning. It only took a couple of minutes before the phone started ringing off the hook. I ignored all of the calls and took out my cell phone. I dialed Sharon's number and I could hear it ringing on the monitors. She glanced at it and said, "It's Dick. Well, this time I'm not going to answer his call and see how he likes it. Take me, honey. Take me good while he's hanging on the line." I hung up and dialed it again. "Well, I suppose I better take it," she said, and I could see her taking it out of her purse. "Hello, Dick," she answered. "What do you want now?" I could literally hear the venom dripping out of her mouth. I said, "Sharon, where are you? What are you doing?" "I went shopping since you didn't call me earlier, and I'm going to stop for something to eat, then go home soon." "So you are shopping now?" I asked. "Yes, and I am going to spend a bunch of money too," she responded. "Well, that is just great. Thanks, Sharon, for being such a great wife. What man could ask for anything better than I have in you?" "Don't talk to me like that, you jerk. I sure don't know what has gotten into you. Goodbye." There she was calling me a jerk again. "No, Sharon, the jerk is Jerk Bob right there in your motel room." As things wind down, I figured I would love to interrupt that. I knew she wouldn't answer her cell phone again, so I dialed the motel number. "Kevin, this is Dick. Are you watching Monday Night Football? No? You should be. Could you ring the Whirlpool suite for me?" After 2 rings, he picked up. "Hi, Jerk Bob. Can I speak one more time with Sharon?" "Dick, what are you doing calling here?" she said as she came on the line. "Well, Sharon, you see it is like this. I know you are a cheating liar, and I know where you are, and I know what you have been doing. I'm going to file for divorce and throw you out on the street. I'm sure some very bad things will also happen to Jerk Bob." "What are you talking about, Dick? I sure can't understand you lately. What has gotten into you?" "Sharon, the jig is up. I think you ought to turn on Monday Night Football and enjoy the halftime show. I will see you later. Goodbye." On the live monitor of the room, I could see her go to the television set and turn it on and tune it to MNF. "Oh my God, no!" she screamed when she saw the streaming video of her and Jerk Bob. There was a time delay from the live video, so she saw plenty of what the whole Atlanta area had been seeing. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," was all she could say as she hurriedly dressed and ran out of the room. Jerk Bob was in no less of a hurry to get out of there, and was cursing the entire time. "I will kill that idiot. I will kill him," he mumbled. Jerk Bob should learn not to mumble things. They would all come back to bite him. As soon as they were out of the room, I shut down the monitors and let the video stream to the end. Then I switched off the live assist mode and put the system back into the fully automated broadcast mode. I pulled the tape and left the broadcast booth. It would probably be the last time I would be in the building, so I took a few things from my desk that I wanted. Now you're up to speed. I spent the rest of the night at Frankie's, and yes, my halftime show was the talk of the bar. After the game ended, I was headed home in a cab. When I got home, Sharon was sitting in the living room with all of the lights off. The phone was off the hook, and I could tell that she had been crying her eyes out. She cried a lot, but I didn't care. It was over as far as I was concerned. "How could you do that to me, Dick?" she wept. "After all the years we have been together, how could you?" "No, Sharon," I replied. "The correct question is, how could you do that to me?" "I am going to go to bed. We will talk tomorrow." She didn't move as I walked out of the room and down the hall to the spare bedroom. In the morning, when I got up with a pretty bad hangover, she was still on the sofa with dark circles around her eyes. It looked to me like she had not slept at all, but again, I really didn't care. She did this to herself. I had nothing to do with it. I walked over and put the phone back on the hook, and it almost immediately started to ring. For the next hour and a half, I answered calls from family members, including her mother and father, friends, my boss, or should I say ex-boss, and both of my daughters. They were terribly upset about what they had seen, and nothing I said to them would calm them down. I knew it was cruel for them to have seen what they did, but they are adults, and will get over it. And oh yes, there was a call from Mrs. Jerkbob too. She wanted to know if I kept a tape of the whole event, and I assured her I had a tape in safekeeping and would give her a copy if she wanted it or needed it. It was plain that everyone I had called had watched the Monday Night Football halftime show. They were all letting me know it. Some were angry with me because it was XXX rated, of course, and some, like her mother and father, thought I was horrible for putting her on display like I had, but most were sympathetic to me and understood. It was a pretty trying ordeal, actually, but the price I had to pay for what I did. Sharon just sat there crying again the entire time. Finally, I left the phone off the hook again and went to make myself some coffee. When I came back, I offered her some coffee and took out the divorce papers and the investment paperwork she needed to sign. Sharon, I am divorcing you. After what I found out and saw last night, you have been cheating on me for at least a year or more, and there is no way I will stay married to you. These are divorce papers, and if you read them in their entirety, you will see I am asking for a no-fault divorce and am agreeing to split our property evenly. In order for that to happen, you need to sign the divorce agreement now and the agreement to split our investments evenly now. There will be no negotiations and no altering of these papers. They are totally fair to you. I will give you until 5 p.m. tonight to see an attorney and verify what I am offering to you and that it is a fair offer. At 5:01 p.m. that deal is off the table and I am filing for divorce on the grounds of adultery, and I will seek a property distribution based upon both what I brought into this marriage, which was in excess of what you brought in, and based upon our respective earnings. In short, I will go after everything I can get. Make no mistake, this is the best deal you can get, so take it. And in the end, it would be a little foolish of you to fight a divorce based upon adultery when all of Atlanta will know it is the truth. Everyone will know you are a lying cheater. It is what you wanted to be. I heard you tell Jerk Bob that, so you have your wish and now everyone knows it. Take the deal, Sharon. Dick, I love you and I want to stay married to you. Can't we try to work this out? That may be true, Sharon, but it doesn't matter. Love has nothing to do with it. I will not stay married to you. Our marriage ended when you decided he was more important than me, and believe it or not, you did make that decision when you gave yourself to him. Now, I would suggest you get yourself cleaned up and go see an attorney. Your time is short. Later that afternoon, she returned home with the papers. My attorney recommends that I sign these papers, Dick. He says you have made a very fair offer given the circumstances, and he thinks I should jump at the chance for this settlement. Dick, can we talk? Can you listen to me and maybe see if you can forgive me and work together to make this marriage work? I told her that I would sit and listen to her because I really wanted to know why she did what she did. I also wanted to know if she had done that before in our marriage. We sat down at the kitchen table and she explained everything to me. There had been no others. It started a short while before she went to work for Jerk Bob. She said she didn't really know why because she was totally happy with me, but couldn't deny that something had attracted her to Jerk Bob. It was probably his charismatic demeanor. She felt he loved her. I agreed with her that Jerk Bob was charismatic, but I burst her love bubble when I played back the 2 sound bites I had saved of him. Here's what Jerk Bob had muttered that first day. That stupid fool had better not let her husband find out that she is sleeping with me. She is so dumb it was a piece of cake to get between her legs, but I think she needs to be history pretty soon. The second sound bite was from the room just before she arrived. She won't know it, but tomorrow I am going to fire her and dump her. If she raises a fuss, I will threaten to tell Dick. That will keep her in line. I can't take a chance on her husband finding out about us. So, Sharon, not only did you destroy our marriage, but you were mistaken about Jerk Bob's feelings for you. All you were to him was a toy. I saw how he treated you and how you liked it. I never made you feel like that, and I never could because to me you were a loving wife. No, Sharon, there is no way I could ever stay married to you for 2 reasons. First, you cheated on our marriage vows and I cannot live with that. And second, you would never be happy with me again anyway. I would never be able to satisfy you again. No, Sharon, no matter how much either of us loves the other, it wouldn't be enough to get past the baggage that you created in our marriage. She just sat there crying, knowing that what I said was the truth. In the end, she just signed both sets of papers. I told her that I would be moving out and that she could stay as long as she needed to find a place to live. I didn't think she would be able to afford the house, and I didn't want to live in the house, so our agreement said that it would be sold and the net gain split evenly, just like everything else. There would just be too many memories in that house anyway. I took the papers and the bags I had packed the day before and left the house. I drove to my broker's office and dropped those papers off and then to a hotel for the night. The next morning I had an appointment with my attorney. We discussed the divorce papers and he agreed to file them with the Superior Court of our county yet that day. We also sat and talked about the trouble I was in at the station and with the FCC. He explained to me that the FCC has authority to issue civil monetary penalties, revoke a license, or deny a renewal application. In addition, violators of the law, if convicted in a federal district court, are subject to criminal fines and/or imprisonment for not more than 2 years. Frankly, it was no surprise to me, because I had been in the business for 22 years and I knew the rules. He said, given the circumstances, he felt I would probably not see jail time, but there would be pretty hefty fines, and my career as I knew it would be over. I would have to find a new line of work. Within a few days, all of the fallout had hit. I was served by the FCC and would be spending a number of days in court defending myself. I won't bore you with the details of the case, but it suffices to say that the fine amounted to about a year's salary for me. So much for my savings account. Worse than that, my broadcast license was revoked and I would be unable to work in my profession for 2 years. The good news, however, is that TT had watched MNF too, and even though what I did was illegal and very vindictive, he had compassion on me and gave me a job with responsibilities that met the restrictions imposed on me by the FCC. Apparently his ex-wife had raked him over the coals pretty good in their recent divorce. I guess I did have that one thing to like HJ. 4. Jerk Bob confronted me one time at Frankie's. He was going to try to punch out my lights, but somehow I ended up standing on his chest with one foot while holding one of his arms tightly. Now, Jerk Bob, I don't ever expect to hear from you again. Do I make myself clear? I said. He said, Get off, idiot. I guess I needed to kick him in the ribs one more time. I said, Jerk Bob, I have an audio tape of you threatening to kill me. I believe if I take that to the police, I will be within my rights to file a restraining order on you and perhaps even file assault charges against you. I think with the evidence I have, you will do some prison time. Is that what you want? He shook his head no. As I kicked him one more time for good measure, I said, Well then, I guess this is the last time we will talk. He lost his job. Last I heard, he was working for a travel agency in the city. He was a charismatic jerk. I will give him that, so he is probably doing all right. He will need to be, because his wife sued him for divorce on the grounds of adultery, and she won a huge settlement from him. It seems my tape was pretty damning, even if not legally obtained. I'm moving on with my life. I won't say things are perfect, but I'm finding ways to be happy. I have dated a few women over the past several months, but have not gotten serious with any of them. I have not had intimacy with any woman either. I believe in lovemaking within marriage, and I will not change my values even if many would say I have every right to be active. When the right woman comes along, I will marry her, and then we will both enjoy intimacy as it was meant to be. I know it is just a matter of time, and I am willing to spend the time to find the right person for me. I do see Sharon from time to time. We both attended Stephanie's graduation from college, and we both attended the baptism of Melanie's first baby. I was civil to her, but I did make it perfectly clear that I wasn't there for her. I was not interested in being friends or buddies or anything else for that matter. It was obvious to me that she was not happy. I could see that she was suffering emotionally from our split up, and that she regretted what she had done. Again, that was not the issue. What was the issue is that she had betrayed me in our marriage. If I were a different man, maybe I could have forgiven her for that, but my value system is pretty rigid, and there was not that much room for me to bend. She will just have to go through the rest of her life knowing that what she gave up for her intimacy with Jerk Bob was me, and the rest of her life with me. I was a mere man who loved her with all my heart, but she threw it away. Yes, she gave up on me. Unfortunately for her, she also gave up any semblance of respectability because everyone who saw her performance in the infamous Monday Night Football halftime show knows who she is. Rumor has it that she has lots of calls for dates. To her credit, she has not accepted any. It must be hell knowing that most men who call really only want to make her their tart. Not a very good way to go through life, but I didn't do it to her, she did it to herself.